Don't forget, you can reach the latest episode of Potomac Watch anytime. Just ask your smart speaker, Play the Opinion Potomac Watch Podcast. That is, Play the Opinion Potomac Watch Podcast.
From the opinion pages of the Wall Street Journal, this is Potomac Watch.
Welcome back. I'm Paul Gigot with Elliot Kaufman and Kim Strassel, all of us at the Wall Street Journal opinion pages. Let's just close the loop, Elliot, on this hostage for money deal. I think the response from a lot of people will be, well, easier for you to say and criticize this administration. The President of the United States has a unique responsibility to get Americans back who are imprisoned. You can't do a military action inside Iran and snatch and grab. It's just not realistic. So what are you going to do? So write a check. Now, another strategy that has been used in the past is actually prisoner swaps, trading one American for somebody that, say, Russia has wanted. Remember, there was the swap for the basketball player, Brittany Griner. A Biden administration returned a convicted arms dealer who had a long-term prison sentence. Is prisoner swap a better way to do it than money?
It might well be. And during the Trump administration, there was one of these prisoner swaps. 2 U.S. hostages held by Iran in exchange for 2 Iranians convicted by U.S. courts. There was no ransom payment. Now, under the Obama administration, John Kerry had paid around $340 million per hostage. Now we're talking $1.2 billion. So the price keeps going up. It's also worth noting that this is a prisoner exchange, too. Supposedly, under the deal, America is going to release 5 Iranians, again, sentenced by U.S. courts. So we're doing the prisoner exchange part of it, and there are costs to that as well. We're just also paying this extravagant ransom that seems so large that it necessarily, I think, raises questions about what else we're trying to get here. Are we trying to get some other talks to proceed with Iran? What else is going on here?
Kim and Elliot, both of you, this question. Adam Smith, in that clip we heard, said that the Trump administration had turned over billions of dollars, I think it was, to Iran. Do either of you remember that?
I do not.
I remember maximum pressure, and that would have been at odds with that strategy.
All right. Well, if we find out, we'll let our listeners know. Let's turn to this deal with Iran, the larger deal, Kim. Elliot has described correctly as the bigger picture goal of the administration. That's been mooted for some time. They've been talking about it. The idea is that Iran, which has been enriching uranium well above 60% and approaching weapons grade, would cease and desist any more progress, hold fast, in other words, not return the enriched uranium to anybody and for safekeeping, but hold fast, no more. And in return for that, the U.S. will ease multiple sanctions, and that would have the money, the cash flow in even greater amounts to Iran. I guess my suspicion is that what the administration wants is they want to get through the election of 2024 without an Iran nuclear crisis, and this is the way they see they can do it.
Yeah, despite the fact that the notion of this deal, it didn't make a lot of sense back in 2015. We were critical of it then. It makes even less sense now, in fact, 0 sense now, given Iran's increasingly malevolent behavior in the region, but also given its approach to the existing sort of nuclear monitoring program. It was only last year the International Atomic Energy Board of Governors put forward a resolution criticizing Iran for stonewalling its probe of undeclared nuclear activity and material. That resolution passed 30-2. The only people that voted against it were China and Russia. There were a few abstentions. The United States, unfortunately, was slow to come around to joining it. And Jake Sullivan at the time responded that even though this resolution criticizing Iran for being utterly untrustworthy in the notion of being honest about its nuclear program, that question was going to proceed on a completely different track than this revival of the 2015 deal, which is mind-boggling that you could just separate the two somehow. But I agree with you. It's being driven by the fact the administration surely must know that Iran has no intention of abiding by whatever the contours of this ultimate deal will be. But this is being driven by politics at this point. This is a desire to say that you are doing something about Iran, kind of keep it inching forward in some ambiguous way, get it past 2024 so that the United States and the Biden administration more particularly does not have to face any confrontation or crisis before then. But strategically, it makes absolutely no sense, and it would be rewarding a bad actor for something that they have no intention of complying with anyway.
Of course, the response from the administration, well, at least this does something to slow down the program. There's already been a couple of leaks late last week saying, oh, well, Iran has ceased to further enrich uranium. I think I know where those are coming from inside the administration. But the idea that this would be an informal agreement, namely a handshake, not any signed on the dotted line deal, it would not presumably involve the Europeans, which the last ones did. This would be basically Iranians promise, and then we'll let the money flow and keep our fingers crossed. We don't know the details of any agreement that might emerge, but one thing I don't think we'll see is a lot more verification procedures.
Yeah, it has been a full retreat for the U.S. negotiating position with Iran on every issue. I mean, even on the supposedly slowing Iranian enrichment, the leaks are that Iran has slowed the rate of its increase in enrichment of uranium up to 60% purity. However, it is continuing to grow its enrichment up to 20% purity, which happens to be the vast majority of the work needed to get to the crucial 90% purity. So it's a sort of purely symbolic move here. And I think in the meantime, Iran gets to cement its status as a nuclear threshold power. I mean, Iran is finishing up construction of underground hardened nuclear facilities that will make it much more difficult to have any sort of military option against it. It's continuing to spend on other elements of its nuclear weapons program, specifically the weapons part of it, as opposed to uranium enrichment part of it. So the Iranian nuclear program is advancing in all kinds of ways. In my view, maybe we can stall them with this kind of thing, but that stalling helps them, not us.
Kim, I guess one last question concerns how Israel will take this. I assume not well, but I'm not sure it can do much about it except to use the tools that it has, intelligence and military, and they're formidable tools. They seem to have a lot of spies in Iran to try to disrupt the Iranian nuclear program. But other than that, unilateral military action by Israel would be possible, but also highly risky, especially with President Biden in office. I have my doubts that Prime Minister Netanyahu would undertake that.
Yeah, I mean, this is the issue, is that Israel does have a lot of abilities. They have been a little bit more activist themselves in exercising some of that, I think, because they rightly are very concerned that the United States is not taking this as seriously as they need to, and that therefore they are the last bulwark, as it were, to try to continue disrupting Iran's efforts at all of this. And if there were a different administration in charge, one that had its back, maybe we would see a more coordinated response to that. And obviously, potentially the whole idea of this 2015 deal would be off the table. But with a American president that has been frosty, to say the least, if not outright antagonistic toward Netanyahu, Israel surely feels quite isolated there in its pursuit, especially because the United States has kept a lot of European partners at least thinking about this 2015 deal, making the case why it needs to have global support. So this is not only, I think, given aid and comfort to Iran, but really demoralized the Israeli cause of action there. And that should be worrisome for everybody.
Thank you, Elliot Kaufman. Thank you, Kim Strassel. And thank you all for listening. We're here every day on Potomac Watch. And please be sure to catch us the rest of the week when we'll have such fun as maybe in another indictment of Donald Trump in Georgia. Oh my, cannot wait. All right. Thanks for listening.